joining us this morning. What is a very different weather situation to what we were led to believe last week. First of all, I'd like to introduce you to Andrew from the Bureau of Meteorology, Syd Fischer, the owner-skipper of Ragamuffin 100, Mark Richards, skipper of Wild Oats 11, and Anthony Bell, the owner-skipper of Perpetual LOYAL. So Andrew last week came in and gave us a very exciting scenario for the big boats and pull the rug from under them. Can you tell us what's developed now and what sort of weather the fleet can expect this year?
The main change in our initial forecast is around the start of the race. Last week we flagged that there would be a low pressure trough to the north of Sydney. It now looks like that trough will be closer to Sydney and we could have a low pressure system off the coast. The good news is that the system seems to be moving away out into the Tasman Sea quite quickly. And so for the start of the race, we're looking at more of an east to southeasterly wind rather than a northeasterly as we initially flagged for the start of the race. But following that, the conditions are then pretty much as we talked about last week. The wind's tending around to the northeast as the boats make their way down the coast, freshening up in strength. And then on the Saturday, a good cold front moving through Bass Strait and bringing possibly gale force winds in its way.
Okay, so we'll speak to Syd first. What does this mean for you guys?
Oh, it's a race. That's basically what it's all about.
So with the other Super Maxis in there, who does this one favour more, do you think?
Well, I think the one that gets the best wind and will be the fastest.
The weather forecasts say not as good as it looked initially. It could be a bit of a slow start until we get down the coast a bit yet.
Well, the weather forecasts are different. You know, we use the American and the European one, but the local one is reality. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay, and Rico, after that great forecast we got last week, the big nor'east as to what we've got now, so what does it mean for you guys?
Yeah, look, it's the same every year. You know, the press get us all fired up for that big slide down the coast, but it never happens. So we're actually going to take them on the race one year just to give them a dose of their own medicine. But you know, it's going to be a very, very tricky race. You know, you know, it's going to be just don't rip up your tickets to the death. And you know, Ragamuffin's going to be there, Perpetual LOYAL's going to be there, Bojess is going to be there, Wild Thing's going to be there. It's going to be a fantastic race to watch, and I think it's going to be a really good spectacle. So.
Yeah, lots of different equations in there now, aren't there?
Absolutely, you know, it's going to be a lot of work.
Anthony, how are you feeling about this latest news?
Well, you know, it's something that we say all the time, that you know, don't rely too much on the weather forecasts. We're all going to be in the same race, but yeah, I guess for us, the big thing will be from the latest news is keeping the boat going, keeping the boat in one piece, and also keeping the crew in one piece. And I think it's going to be a race that would appear from my last information from Stan this morning. It's going to be a real race for the navigators as well. So on that, there'll be a lot less certainty, I think. We think coming up, and we're happy. We're ready to go out there and have a crack.
Okay. So I guess Rico, it means to tacticians, navigators, and skippers really having to have a few more powwows about making decisions with the light weather and all the changes along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and it's I mean, the afterguard's so important in these races. You know, and you know, there's some of the best around the world sailors on board all these boats, and a lot of experience. And Syd and those guys have been doing a lot of miles this year. So they're all great teams. It's going to be who does the best job on the day, basically. And but it's like everything. There's going to be the technical side of it, and then it's going to be the sailors who've really got to sail the boats as fast as they can to each transition and do the gear changes. And it's going to be, I guarantee you that everyone's tanks will be empty by the time they get to Hobart.
Sorry, before we go too much, can we ask some questions?
Yeah, just a moment.
It's people looking to the side. It's kind of unusable to look towards the front.
Rico, where do you see the most difficult part of this race this year for the big boats?
Oh, look, the whole race, it's going to be really tricky. you've got such a big variation in boat designs and styles of boats that, you know, each one of these boats is going to have, you know, favourable conditions for themselves, and then not so much down the track, you know. So it's just going to be, you know, it's really exciting. I mean, we don't even know how we're going to go against some of these other boats, to be honest with you. So there's a lot of unknowns there, and yeah, we'll just see what happens on the day. And one thing I do know is, you know, what will be, and you just got to do, you know, do the best job, you know, when it's all presented to you.
There's a nasty front looking like going to hit the smaller boats in the fleet at some stage. Do you think you're going to cop any of that?
Oh, look, it's hard to say. I hope not, but it's one of those things. I mean, you know, it's always Sydney Hobart. I mean, it's, you know, we always end up getting a front somewhere along the line, and you know, let's hope it's not too bad at the end.
Anthony, last week Stan was saying that he thought the time the forecast favoured Oats a little bit more. Has that closed at all, do you feel, for the latest move?
I think the uncertainty is the big issue coming, and it's hard to say who it favours. I think we're in for a proper boat race, Adrian. I think it's going to be one that, you know, sort of turning up on the day, and that will modify for the next 48 hours afterwards. Yeah, we you know, from our point of view, we were a little bit depressed a couple of days ago as to what the forecast was saying, and I guess from this point we just we moved from depression to uncertainty. So it's not the worst thing.
Andrew, can I get you to expand on that, those conditions across Bass Strait that you referred to when things get tricky?
Yeah, sure. Look, as the boats make their way down the coast on a Friday, the winds will start freshening up from the northeast as they get down towards Green Cape. Getting into Bass Strait on Saturday, they could be picking up strong winds, strong northeasterly winds ahead of the front, and then the front moves through the eastern part of Bass Strait later on the Saturday. That could come through with a pretty good push. At the moment, we'd be expecting at least strong winds and possibly gales through Bass Strait for a period of time then.
Andrew, can you, for the punters at home, can you just give us a very layman's explanation of what you think is going to happen on Boxing Day and who it's going to favour?
I can't comment on who it's going to favour, but I can tell you about the conditions we're seeing. And at the moment, we're looking at a small low pressure system developing off the Sydney coast. Depending on how far out to sea that is at the time that the race starts, will determine what sort of strength and direction the winds are. It looks at the moment like they'll be around to the east or around to the southeast. We're looking at hopefully winds of about 10 to 15 knots at start time. But if the low tucks in a little bit closer to the coast, we could be getting up to 20 to 25 knots.
Andrew, there was some talk in the papers this morning about even around that Bass Strait area conditions similar to what we saw in '98. Is it going to be that bad for the smaller yachts there, a really wild and bumpy ride down there, or is it a little bit exaggerated?
The conditions on the Saturday when things deteriorate, it's a cold front moving through and then a westerly stream. If you look back to '98, that was the actual low pressure system that wound up within Bass Strait at that time. So it's a different weather system, a different weather setup, but nevertheless we have to be on the guard for strong to gale force winds on the Saturday in the lead of that front.
Mark, what does this mean for your charge of the race record again?
Oh, look, I don't think, you know, the race record really, from what we can see, isn't really a threat, you know, this year, I would say. So, but you just never know. Sometimes the fronts come through a little later, and the nor'easter could hang there for an extra 4 or 5, 6 hours. You know, and that makes a big difference to these boats. When you're running almost 25 knots, you can do, you know, 100 miles in 4 hours, sort of thing. So, it's the race record is just something we don't even think about that, to be honest with you. It's just one of those things that can pop up, and we'll just have to see what happens.
Do you get nervous at all?
No. Of course I did, yeah, very. It's half the fun.
This doesn't strike me as such a crash hot forecast for the following 7 weeks. Do you think, from your point of view, that they're less of a threat now than they were?
We think the Volvos will be up there. You know, they're particularly tough boats, and they can be pressed hard, you know, sort of particularly between seaways. So our feeling is that the Volvos will definitely be just as competitive in this race, given even the new circumstances that are there. And you know, the big 100-footers will be trying to nurse the boats, I guess, sometime in this race, and make sure we just hold them together. And the Volvos will press hard and could give a very good account of themselves.
Anthony, how's your celebrity crew going?
They're going well, Ross. They're lining up pretty good. They've trained well. Most of them tell us that they're not going to be seasick, and the forecast is something they're watching all the time. But yeah, they're generally they're going well, and they're all excited about Boxing Day. It's going to be a fantastic day.
How do you juggle the ego, especially with Carl?
Well, Carl's actually moved up to skipper of the boat now. Actually, he's,
that's one you can't control, isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny with Carl. He's head of communications. He's a communications officer now, but he's very he's a lot more stoic, a lot more staunch than a lot of people give him credit for, particularly with the headlines last year. And he does like to get involved and push it out. So yeah, the celebrities are looking good. They're excited. They're generally they're a buzz. They're down at the boat this morning. We're working on it, so it should be a good day out.
Andrew, just for those who want to go and watch the start of the race on Boxing Day, what sort of forecast can they expect on shore?
We actually get some rain overnight, Christmas Day into Boxing Day, so it could actually be quite wet. And by the afternoon, we could actually be picking up some showers around the coast. So probably not the best spectator conditions at the moment, but yeah, certainly we'd have to see what it's like on the day.
Yeah, with the forecast being a bit unpredictable in terms of the stars, it could be 10 to 15 knots, you're saying it could be stronger. How much of a difference does that make, maybe, Mark?
Oh, it's a big difference, you know. It really is. It's, I mean, there's rumours of 3 knots at the start. So, I mean, it's just one of those things. You know, the weather is the weather, you know, and you can predict as much as you like. But actually, when it comes to race time and the 5-minute gun, you just got to make sure you've got the right sails up and prepared for whatever you've got, you know. And it's so the forecast is a forecast, you know. What actually happens on the day at the start, we'll just have to see what happens.
Does it start with rain? How does that affect you?
It's pretty miserable. It'll be wet, but yeah, that's just the way it is. It's part of the race.
Syd, we've heard Anthony saying there'll be times when they have to be keeping the boats together, they take the foot off the accelerator a little bit, nurse the boats through it a little bit. Historically, I've never really thought of you as much of a nurse. Will you be keeping your foot down, or will you be nursing your boat as well?
Well, we'll push the boat as hard as we can. And, you know, we've got the gear to contend with any weather. And I think all boats are like that. We're rigged for that, and we'll take it as it comes.
Anthony, what's going on with your sail?
It arrived. Sanders sled brought it to us a couple of days ago, and yeah, we've got it. It's been it was commissioned and cabled this morning in the park. We're going to put it up a bit later on today, just to make sure that it fits on the locks and it's furling okay, and then we're going to pack it and get set for Boxing Day. But it's a year, and we're very pleased about that.
So you're not going to need to test it out before then?
No, I think, like I said, today it's just a matter of, you know, the sail comes almost preset to go straight onto the boat. We just want to make sure that, you know, the fittings and that have been taken care of. And if it is, like I said, that all the running gear is working, but we're not going to go out for a training racing anchor today or tomorrow.
How much of a nervous wait was it?
It was a little bit nervous. I think there was about 14 or 15 points of transport between where the sail was finished in Nevada to actually getting it past customs and freight forwarding here in Australia. So yeah, it was one of those things that we heard that it was on the plane on QF12 a couple of nights ago, and we just had to see it and touch it to make sure it actually got here the next morning. But it was here, and thank goodness for the good people at Qantas who helped us out with that. It was a massive effort.
Was it made from Nevada?
It was made in Nevada, and then we got the guys to drive it to LA rather than fly it to LA, just in case it got lost somewhere in transit. And so yeah, it had a fair bit of attention for